Right, we're live. We should be. Yeah, we're live. Right, we're
Great.
live.
Can everyone hear me? Great.
Just make sure if you're watching the stream that you all mute it, or else it will feed back in. Yeah, if you've got it open. We're live.
Great. Let me just start by saying good evening to everyone. Good evening, Mohammed Basir. Good to see you here. The way if you've been to one of our previous office hours, then you know what to expect. But let me just give you a quick summary of what's going to happen. Can everyone hear me? Great.
Just make sure if you're watching the stream that you all mute it, or else it will feed back in.
All right. Okay. Is it still feeding back in?
It was as of just now.
Okay.
But,
I've just turned it off. So let's get started. Myself, I am the founder of Bits. My name is Faisal. Some of you may have actually interacted with me on email under the name of Fez. And this time around, I am very, very excited to say I have part of my team here with me. I've been trying to figure out how to make this work. And thanks to Iggy, we finally have. So I have three of my colleagues with me. I have Iggy, Gigi, and Zen. And so I think let's get started. I mean, the way that we do these is you write your questions in the chat, and then we pick them up one by one. So if you have any questions now, just feel free to write them in. Otherwise, we had some topics of our own that we would like to cover. So I'll just pause here for 5 seconds and see if you have any questions in the chat. This is a great opportunity, guys. We have like 4 credit experts, probably like 20 years of credit building experience right here. So if you do have questions, this is a great opportunity to ask them.
We've got some questions coming in.
Great. Iggy, do you want to tackle these questions to start with? Starting with Samir's question.
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely. So the question is, for anyone who just can't see the chat, can closing a credit account affect your credit score? It's a slightly complicated question, but certainly it is true that the average length of your credit accounts is a significant factor that lenders consider. So in general, it's best to keep the average length of your credit accounts as long as possible, ideally at least a year. So closing a credit account, if it's going to affect the average length of all the credit accounts you've had open, then yes, theoretically, it could affect your score. I don't know if anybody else had anything to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, obviously, it depends on what kind of account we're talking about here. So, you know, if the account you're closing is a bad credit account, like a payday loan, or you know something that you defaulted on, or an overdraft, then that's a good thing. But just I mean, just to echo what Iggy was saying, as a general rule, you know, you want to keep credit accounts open for as long as you can. The length of time you've had them, it does affect your score, but it also affects how lenders see you. You know, lenders are used to seeing people having accounts for many years, so they do take it as a sign, as a signal of financial maturity. Iggy, let's move on to the next one. Interesting question about CCJ.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as I'm aware, you know, you can't have a CCJ removed from a credit report per se, but at a certain point, it will no longer appear on your credit file. Is it a duration of years, I believe?
6 years.
6 years, yeah. So unfortunately, there's no way to actually remove it from your file, but it will eventually drop off your file. Specifically with regard to bits, we say that as long as the CCJ wasn't received in the past 6 months, you can use bits. If you wonder about that as well, but.
And Gigi, do you want to talk about like settled CCJs and not settling them, because that's pretty important.
Yeah, so Iggy's definitely right. Like, unless it actually wasn't you that caused the CCJ to be added to your file, you can't get it removed. But what you can do to help, at least, is settle it. That's the most important thing you can do. This makes a big impact on a big difference to the impact you see on your score. So a settled CCJ, some mortgage lenders will accept you with a settled CCJ, but absolutely none will accept you if it's not settled. So if you're looking to take out new credit in like the next couple of months, it's just definitely something to get done if you can afford it, obviously.
I'll take the next question, which is about bits rewards. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but I will say there is something coming there soon. So it is not pointless. I know it's taken us absolutely ages to get it right, but there is something coming there soon. The next question I'll take as well, which is, why is the credit system so complicated in the UK? I think this is a really interesting point. But if you think about like the credit systems, if you think about credit agencies, they've grown on the back of lending, right? And so what we've seen in the past 10 to 15 years in particular is the nature of lending, and actually the nature of banking itself has changed quite dramatically. You no longer need to borrow money from a bank. You can do it from online lenders. The definition of credit itself has changed quite a lot, right? And I think credit agencies have just kind of struggled to keep up with that growth. But it is complicated. At times I understand it can feel a bit unfair as well. I think for me, personally, the thing that I struggle with the most is the fact that unlike the US, which is where I spent a lot of time, in the UK, even if you have a really good credit score, that doesn't mean you're going to get approved. I mean, just on this call, we have someone who had like a 970 plus Experian score, but she was new to credit. She didn't have a very long history, and therefore she got rejected for a mobile contract. So it is confusing, and I think it's only going to continue to get confusing in the next few years, unfortunately. Let's move on. Iggy, do you want to tackle the next question?
Is that so? I just noticed there's also a follow-up to the previous question, which is just about how no one ever gets taught about credit until it's too late. I mean, yeah, I think that certainly makes it harder. It's very, very opaque from the outside looking in. And I mean, you can sometimes get into the habit of trying to sort of second guess what lenders are thinking about different behavior. But at the end of the day, it's sort of about learning some basic principles. And yeah. And so the next question is from Mohammed. So you've been upgrading your plan to a higher amount, but Experian sees it as a negative. Why is that? So it's difficult to sort of speculate without knowing more about your broader sort of credit situation. But if you'd like to book a call with a member of the team, we can comment a Calendly link in the YouTube comment section. Probably it might be the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And then you could book a call.
There's actually an anomaly here, which I think Mohammed may be referring to. Basically, if you have a credit card that is less than £1,000 limit, then Experian shows that as a negative. In the section where they're showing you like the negatives on your file, they will show that as a negative. It's quite misleading. It doesn't mean that it's negatively affecting your score. All it means is that Experian is basically telling you that you should upgrade. You should try to get a higher limit. Experian isn't telling you to upgrade with bits, but that's Experian's way of telling you that if you had a higher limit, your score would go up even more. Let's move on to the next.
Hello? So I just lost sound for a second.
Oh yeah, Iggy, I think we're answering Asha Dresner's question.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So, does bits work better the lower your credit score when you start? And if so, at some point, does your credit score get to the point where bits won't make much of a difference?
Next one.
So, I mean, if you start lower, there's certainly more room to grow. I mean, if you start at 900, it's never going to go up by more than 99 points, because that's the maximum Experian score is 999. So it leaves more room for improvement. But then on the other side, if it starts off low, that could suggest that there are other things that are holding it back. That's not necessarily true, but it could suggest there are other things on your file which will limit Bits' impact. Again, this is potentially something which, if you wanted some specific information on it, would be best to book a call with us. But as a general rule, I think, the lower your score, the more room for improvement. But at the same time, there might be other things that will be holding your score back other than, anything we can do.
And then to go over the other part of the question about whether you get to a point where it just doesn't make a difference anymore. I think it's definitely true that the initial impact is often the largest impact that you see. And maybe, 6-7 months down the line, you're not seeing the big increases that you were seeing each month before. But the key thing here is that one of the biggest factors that affects your score is average credit age. So the longer you have this account open, even if you're not directly seeing 30, 40 points each month, still having that account open and letting it mature and making these regular payments across a sustained period of time is going to be benefiting you. And it's also a point that, although again your score might not be increasing, you'll be building up that credit history, and that's generally more important than your score anyway.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Gigi said, which is a really important point. I can understand why it's easy to focus just on the score because it's something that you can track. But regardless of whether or not you use bits, don't stop doing something good just because your score has stopped moving. Making regular payments on your energy bill, it's not going to keep building your score forever, but it's a good thing to do. So things that just make sense turn out to be things that lenders like to see anyway. Let's move on to the next one. This is a good question about, I'll take this one from Asher, which is about, so Asher's question is, does renting a home mean your credit score can't go above a certain score? I think that, so first of all, unless your rental payments are being reported to someone like Credit Ladder, barring that scenario, your rental payments will actually not affect your credit score at all. I think what's implicit in the question is that if I don't have a mortgage, does that mean I can never get a 999? That's a good question. I mean, anecdotally speaking, I certainly don't think so. I mean, the way that Experian calculates its score, there are many ways to get to the perfect score, and mortgage does help, but it's certainly not the only way to get there. Gigi, you want to take the next one? This is also a good question from Samson.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it. Why does everything involve credit nowadays, even getting a SIM? That definitely resonates with me because I needed a mobile contract and I couldn't get one because of my credit score at the time. Again, not having necessarily, missed payments or anything like that. I just didn't have the credit history for it. I think with most things, like a SIM, for example, you can still get SIMs that don't require a credit check, where you just pay monthly, like gift gaff. So if you look for those in Voxy, I think as well, they do have these options. I think the thing is, it's a good thing in some ways, because adding things like your mobile contract and your energy bills mean that you, someone who might not have been able to get a mortgage in the past, now have proof from these everyday things that you would want anyway. You now have proof that you're using credit. So I can see the negative that you need credit to get these things now, which is a bad thing. But also on the upside, it means that if you do then get these, and after building credit for a couple of months or so, you should be able to get them. It means that it will make it easier for you to get things like a mortgage that you would want in the future.
In fact, do we even sort of say that a sort of good three-pronged approach is to have a mobile contract, if you possibly can, your name on utilities bills, and a credit card, which can be bits.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I'll take the next one, which is another great question. So Wilco 1288 says, why do all 3 or 4 credit reporting agencies not share data across the board so that everyone is working from the same page? That would make sense, but I don't actually know why they don't do it. I think, I mean, you must remember that credit agencies are businesses. They are publicly traded businesses, and it's interesting. The position that they occupy in society is, I would say, it's sort of quasi-governmental. That's how people think of them, but ultimately they're businesses. And for some reason, in the UK, they just haven't been able to get their act together and coordinate. I do think ultimately they will start to do this. In the US, for example, there's like a single score. They call it the FICO score, and all the agencies do report that single score. The next question is from Zubair. Do you want to take the Siggy?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I've heard that a default account, so you've defaulted on a payment of some kind, and you've heard that it disappears from your credit file after 6 years. Is this true? And if yes, what happens next? Does it affect future credit applications? So that is correct, as far as I'm aware. And also, as far as I know, if it's dropped off your credit file, it really shouldn't affect future credit applications. But please correct me, one of the other 3, if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, no, look, anything that goes on your credit file, good or bad, will drop off in 6 years. So that's that is true. I would be interested in knowing the reason, the context behind that. If you're considering applying for something in the next few months. So, but to answer your question, yeah, it does drop off. It's like a revolver belt. Anything that goes on now, 6 years later, it'll drop off. I mean, there's one thing that I would say there is, and this is the reason why you should be a little bit careful about a default. Let's say you have a default and ultimately, you don't pay it off. What's going to happen next is it's probably going to go into collection, which means the collection agency will then buy the debt from the lender, and the collection agency will then ultimately go and get what's known as a county court judgment against you. So, when you slipping from default to CCJ, that can take time. It can take months. CCJ is like the ultimate landing place. Like basically that's about the worst single action that can happen on a loan. So if something is in default and you're thinking, well, it'll go away in 6 months, in reality, it could be more than six. In reality, it could be more than 6 years, because maybe it takes a year to get to CCJ, and then from the point of CCJ, it's 6 years onwards. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Sorry.
Let's move on.
Cool. So the next question is from Toti Show. If you have poor credit and have started making positive changes in payments, what's a realistic time period to reach a good score? And how does making regular payments to bits accelerate this? So, I mean, to some extent, a good score is subjective. And it's also quite difficult to put a specific time period on the improvements that you're likely to see. However, as we've sort of already covered, when you first start making sort of good credit changes, you might see an initial boost, and that might be, significant. And then at the other end, once you start sort of lengthening the average age of your credit accounts, that's going to have another good impact. So, I mean, that's quite a vague answer, I'm aware, but that's sort of par for the course here when we're trying to generalize about specific things. But on bits, the simplest way of putting it is that a lot of the time, the advice to people trying to build their credit scores is to go and get a credit card, just a traditional sort of old-fashioned credit card, and sort of make regular restrained spending on that credit card. And Bits works in exactly the same way, except that you don't have to worry about getting rejected in quite the same way as you do for a credit card. And you also don't have to worry in the same way about getting into unnecessary debt. So we report payments just like a credit card would, and that's how it helps. So next question is from Alicia. I hope I pronounced that right. Bits was the only sort of credit I could get, as my score was so low I wasn't even eligible for a credit card. Now my score has been bumped up a little bit. What is the next step to keep building? Well, it's great to see that Bits has already helped to bump up your score. Hopefully that is what bumped up your score. It is quite a common scenario, sort of as I was just saying, that it's a catch-22 where people want to get a credit card to improve their credit score, but their credit history is too low to actually get a credit card in the first place. And so that is certainly sort of an audience that we cater to. In terms of the next step, I mean, as we say, keep your account open for a decent amount of time, but also if you haven't already, get your name on some utilities bills. That's very sort of low risk. And then beyond that, applying for a mobile contract might be a good idea, but also to some extent, you don't want to get rejected for a mobile contract as well. So you probably want to just pace yourself a little bit there. Is that probably about right?
Yeah, no. Alicia, also feel free to book a call one-to-one. But I think just to echo what Iggy was saying, keep it simple. Don't get into like credit building loans and those kinds of things. It's generally has a risk of backfiring more than it does helping. You've got a credit card, you've got Bits, mobile contract, energy bills. These are the three best ways to build credit. If you can get there today, amazing. If you need a bit more time to get some of them, like the mobile contract, that's fine. But happy to chat one-to-one and dig into your case in a bit more detail. I'll take the next one, which is from Samson. Samson says, would you guys ever have a physical card? I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret since you're all here. That's the thing we're working on next. Timelines are 3 to 6 months. So please don't tell anyone. It stays within this chat, but that is exactly what we're working on next. This is not going to be like a plain old normal credit card that charges you interest and gets you into debt. Nope. It is a very, very different concept. It is a credit card designed and built to save you money without any risk of getting you into debt. It's literally never been done before. I mean, we're speaking to people like Visa and MasterCard, and they've never seen the concept. They've never seen anything like this. So it's actually fascinating. And but again, please, it doesn't leave this this session. Anyway, that indeed it is coming up next. I'm going to go through quickly in the interest of time, since we're sort of 5 minutes left. The next one we have is from specific specialist. The name: my credit score is so low. I never missed any payments. The only issue I had was applying for several credit cards over a year ago. What's the fastest way to boost my credit rating? Don't apply for so many credit cards as one. Every time you apply, your score takes a hit. But if I don't know. Honestly, I think this one needs a one-to-one call for us to figure it out. I would say, you said fastest way to boost my credit rating. Speed is not necessarily a good thing. Your score can go up very quickly, but remember what I said about stability and length of time. But we're happy to chat offline, and we will paste. Gigi, if you want to just paste the Calendly link.
I've pasted it just in the comments.
Next one from Ohe: how practically does paying for the more expensive Bit subscriptions positively help a credit score and report? So I think the real question here is, hey, listen, I mean, you guys have some pretty expensive plans. Is it worth it or is it not worth it? This is case specific, but as a general rule, I will tell you, the more expensive plans have higher limits. And as a general rule, the higher the limit, the higher your repayment, the more impactful it is. Please don't think about it this way, though. I mean, the right way to be thinking about what plan is best for you is very simply affordability. What can you comfortably afford? We don't want to get you into debt. That's why we have like plans starting at £2 a month. They do work, and we have a range so that we're not trying to cram people onto a plan that is not affordable. So please go with whatever is affordable. That should be literally the only question that determines which plan you go for. The next one from Aspirant. Aspirant says, I have two credit cards with low limits, 100 and 200 pounds respectively. Should I stop using them altogether for my purchases, even if I pay every month in full and use only 20%? It seems high credit use raises flags. Yeah, so look, I think you just have to be careful here. If you end up using more than 30%, then yes, it can make your score go down. You should know that even if you're paying it off in full, it may still be harming your score. Why? It's a little bit complicated, but I'll try to quickly summarize. Basically, the date that lenders report you to credit agencies, it's not the date that you're paying back in full. If you're lucky, it is. Generally, it's not. And so imagine a situation where your payment date is the 29th of the month. Lender is reporting on the 24th. On the 24th, you've used up the max balance. Your score is going to drop. So don't take that risk. Keep usage below 20%. Patrick's question, has anything changed with credit due to the pandemic and Brexit? I think it's just become harder. It's just become a lot harder to get credit. I mean, this is actually a very good question. And, we were part of an invite-only roundtable held by the FCA on the nature of how credit has changed. We should actually summarize the findings and distribute those to two people here, Gigi and Iggy. The next one, KK says, why when I joined BITS and upgraded 1400 limit, when it showed in my Experian, my score went minus 55. I'm glad you brought this up. Sometimes people's score does go down when they open a new credit account. It happens with BITS as well. The amount of that drop, minus 55, that's generally more than I would expect. I mean, in 9 out of 10 cases, there's no drop. In 1 out of 10 cases, it drops by 20, 30 points. I would love to speak to you and try to figure out what's going on and fix it. So please book a call on Calendly. Erica, Iggy, do you want to take this one? What's Experian Boost?
Yeah, sure. So Experian Boost, it's a relatively new product that Experian have launched. And essentially it means that you give Experian access to your bank statements. So as long as you're comfortable with that, what they will do is they will look for any recurring payments like a Netflix subscription or something else, which usually doesn't contribute towards your credit history. And then they will incorporate that into your credit history and use it to boost your Experian credit score. And it's completely free as well. So essentially the only cost is if you don't want Experian seeing your bank statements for whatever reason. I mean, there's no, they never incorporate anything negative. So there's no risk of your score going down. And the only thing is, Experian are going to get my data, basically. So just looking down, we've got only a minute or so left. Are we just going to sort of try and quickly go through the rest of them?
Yeah, I mean, let me quickly screen through them. So the question from Abraham says, do you get the same results regardless of the amount taken by BITS every month? Higher plans generally have better results. Abraham, with that said, choose the plan that's affordable. Please let that be the only deciding criteria. What is comfortably affordable? Asher, thanks. It was a pleasure to have you here as well. Andrew, I'm going to talk about this one a little bit. So Andrew says I paid off a loan and a credit card and my score dropped 200 points. Why would this happen? Is it better to pay each month instead of clearing things in full? Absolutely not, Andrew. There's something going on here. I would love to, again, I would love to speak to you one-to-one to try and unlock. But this is a massive drop. This kind of drop, 200, either means that something bad has gone on, like a missed payment has been reported, or it means that you have another credit card and the balance on that has increased quite a lot. My hunch is it's probably a credit card balance that's increased, but let's talk about it one-to-one. site. You want to talk about this quickly, Iggy? Like, why is it that other credit reference sites like ClearScore, for example, show a different score than Experian?
Well, there's two reasons that I can think of off the top of my head. The first one is that, and this is confusing, but they use different scales. So Experian scores go up to 999, whereas TransUnion's and Equifax's, which are the other two, go up to 700 and 710. I can't remember which way round it is, but one 700 and one 710. The other reason might be that you are a BITS customer, and for the time being, we're partnered with Experian. So if we've boosted your credit score, that will be making your Experian score higher than your other ones.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Let's just see, are there any? Asked a question from Aspirant. He says, you mentioned there's like a 3 combo: mobile bill, credit bill, and utility bills. My place has all bills included. Could I get a broadband or fixed line as utility bill? I mean, I don't actually know the answer to this one, but it depends on. Actually, I don't know the answer to this one. I mean, I know that energy and companies, gas utility and gas, electricity, water do report. Maybe Zan or the rest.
Oh, my broadband shows on my credit file, if
It
that
does.
helps. I don't know if all companies do, but Virgin definitely does at least. So maybe if you get it through one that also does mobile phones, that would help.
The only other thing I would say is that, you could ask your landlord to organize energy yourself. I mean, I don't know if they would agree to that, but apart from anything, you might also get a better deal. I know I found that when I was in my old rental property, the tariff that my landlord put me on was a lot higher than I got, but that's a sort of separate thing. Oh, how can we arrange one-to-one calls? Just to reiterate, to arrange a one-to-one call, you can book through the link that I've posted in the comments below.
Do people see it? I'm not sure because
Yeah, I'm not sure I can see it. I'm going to send it. Can people see that?
I don't see it.
Oh, so I'm posting it in the comments below, so it will stay there, not in the sort of chat. Is that?
Okay, yeah.
Is anyone posting it, guys?
Yeah, so I've tried to post it in the public comments.
It's not there. Gigi, do you want to try doing this?
I've just tried typing it in the chat. For some reason, that's not coming up either. I'm not sure why.
Let me try in the chat.
Please.
So
oh yeah, that's come up.
Okay,
I can see that now.
Okay, great. You should see it now, guys. calendly.com/getbits. Okay, cool. There's one more comment which I'll cover. Wilco says, I would suggest, in addition to bits, that people use Check My File. They are far better than any other credit comparison site. Check My File is good, Wilco. The only issue with them is they actually don't refresh scores immediately. So there can be a bit of a lag sometimes between when your score gets updated and when it's shown there. I think that is, we had one more comment, which was Wilco said, I mean, someone, I guess, asked the question, which is, Wilco said, if I have 2 properties, I don't, but if I did, can I link my utility bill payments to my credit file, which is registered at a different address? I guess you can. Just sounds kind of complicated. I would just keep it simple. Just one, the property you live at, if there's a way to just get your name on there, that would be better. I think that's a wrap, guys. There's one more link we have to post. Iggy, do you want to do that?
Oh yeah. Which link am I posting? Sorry.
Our Trustpilot link.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Great. So I just want to say thank you, guys. Thank you for joining. We exist because of you, and we're here to serve you. And every time we have these conversations, I learn along with you. So I just want to say thank you again for your time, for supporting us. and for helping us get better. We will, yes, I'm seeing the comments about the FCA findings, and we will send those over. One small request I had at the end: if you enjoyed this, please leave us a review on Trustpilot. And I think you should see a link to our Trustpilot page right here. Tell us what you think, and yeah, that's a wrap. Thanks again for your
Oh,
time.
and also quickly, can I just add, if we didn't answer any questions you have, or you think of some later and you don't want to book a call because it's just not going to take that much time, you can always email them to us to hello@getbits.app as well, and we'll answer within a day.
Great. Thanks, guys. I think we can end this, and yeah, go rate us on Trustpilot, please. Thank you very much, and take care. Good evening. Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.